Thanks for tuning in to this Lyric That Truth podcast. We are back with one of my favorite guests from last year, Hannah Brencher. You wrote a book called The Unplugged Hours, and you and I spent a lot of time really talking about this little device that's constantly in our hands and purses and back pockets, and really being thoughtful about spending time away from it and just curating a more present life. I learned so much both from reading the book and that conversation with you, Hannah. And I know that that's a big passion of yours to help other people be present in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's probably, gosh, one of my biggest life's mission. And whether that is in unplugging or that is in really any area of life. One of the things that I realized when I did start unplugging is that the next stage of the battle was, oh, okay, I can actually be somewhere and still not be present even if my phone is away. And that's a whole other like battle in itself, right? To learn how to be present and rooted where you are, no matter your circumstances. I think that's a lifelong journey for me and probably a lot of people, but I think it's one of the most important like things. I think presence is our superpower in this day and age.
I remember being so inspired the last time I talked to you, and I was really good for a couple of days. And then I feel like I fell back into my familiar habits. And
Hmm.
Hannah, honestly, this is something I deeply struggle with
Yeah.
and really want to overcome. And I don't know
Hmm.
if you can help me and all of us in learning how to be more present. Is it simply discipline or what?
I think like it's yes, discipline. I think everything in life hinges on discipline, but I also think that we don't like to talk about discipline because the word conjures up feelings of like, this is rigid, this is hard. In a lot of like, I've noticed in a lot of like Christian spaces, the reason people don't like discipline is because discipline was a word that was used in childhood that meant you were bad. So like I grew up in a space where I didn't have any context with the word discipline, and I found discipline actually all throughout the Bible that it doesn't mean something bad or hard. It can be in the context of it being difficult, but really it's training. All of discipline is just training. And when you look at it from that mindset, it's not an all or nothing approach. Those rarely ever work. And in the case of you, and like you did it for a few days, chances are the momentum was there, the motivation was there. You're like, I'm a new person.
Yeah.
Yes, it's amazing. And then you fell off the wagon, which a lot of us do. And I think that really we could go back, we could revisit, and we could put some guardrails around you so that you keep showing up.
Okay. What are some of those guardrails? I'm gonna
Okay,
write them
so
down. I'm taking notes.
so when you did start unplugging, how were you able to gauge it? Were you tracking it at all, or were you
Nope.
just like,
No,
no, okay,
no. I just chatted with you and just decided I'm a new person.
I love that. Hey, I love that.
Right?
Um, no, so that was one of the first things I
Mm.
did in my unplugged journey is I created a tracker for myself because I know I am a student of discipline at all times. I'm fascinated by it. I love it. As somebody who deals with mental health issues, like it has been like a hinge for me. It really is the hinge to like an abundant life.
Hmm. I wanna
But
pause on that. I wanna pause
yeah,
on that because I think so many of us can connect with that. A
yeah,
discipline is a hinge to what?
an abundant
An
life.
abundant life. Who doesn't want to live an abundant life? I wanna live an abundant life. Okay.
Well,
I'm
and we
writing it
don't
down.
think that that's possible. We think
Mhm.
that no way could discipline lead to that. I get emails about it all the time. I literally got an email from somebody like a few weeks ago that was am I really supposed to cultivate discipline? That just seems so boring and it seems so rigid. And the way that I frame discipline is like, okay, if I know the habits and the routines and the rituals that I want to cultivate, chances are those are all leading to this person that I want to become in this lifetime. And so if I start to practice those things, I start to become that person.
Hmm.
So for you, it's probably like, I want to be a more present person. I want to
Mhm.
put my phone away. That's a person that I want to be.
Mhm.
But what needs to come alongside that is a way for you to quote unquote collect the evidence that you are
Okay.
becoming that person.
Okay. Okay. Collect the evidence. So you have
Collect
to
the
track it.
evidence. You have to track it. And it doesn't have to be like this meticulous track every
Mhm.
moment of your day, every page you read, every calorie you eat, because that really can become an obsession and suck the joy away.
Mhm.
But when you're focusing in on a specific discipline like this one, it's like, well, how else do you track unplugged time? It's not as simple as, oh, I got 3 workouts in this week, so I am strength training. We need to find a way to measure this area. And so that's why I recommend a tracker, like whether it's
Mhm.
1,000 hour tracker. If you're new to unplugging, try 100 hour tracker, or just in your own, notebook. Just say,
Yeah.
okay, my goal this week is to unplug for 5 hours.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Just write it down. You don't have to make it so complicated. What's interesting when you were talking about it being different than tracking a workout is I don't struggle to get my workouts in a week.
Mm-hmm.
I've made it a priority. I'm getting older. It makes me feel better. I have a
Yep.
direct result. When I do the workout, I feel better. Then I follow this lady who's at the same age in my life, and she has what she calls it a menopause shake. I'll just put it out there. And it's got flaxseed and chia seed and it's got yogurt. And she's like, just make the thing, like be disciplined to make the
Yeah.
thing, sip on it in the afternoon. That is not a struggle for me because I know that that's going to help me feel better as I age. I don't know why I apply a different level of struggle to disconnecting from my phone and being more present.
Well, because it's a habit that you've cultivated over time. So probably when you first started with like the working out and the shake, it probably did come with like the ending of a honeymoon period, the maybe you fell off, fell back on it, but like
Yeah.
eventually it became a habit that you didn't need to track anymore. And so
Hmm.
like for me, like I keep a monthly habit tracker, but that's not all of my habits because some of them have just become, oh, I just do that thing naturally. I don't need to track it anymore. The
Hmm.
habits that I actually focus on tracking are the ones that I'm working to cultivate, the ones that never seem to get easier, the ones that like I know that I want, but they can very easily be the thing that falls to the back burner because something else is more appealing.
Can you share some of those with us, whatever you're comfortable sharing about some of those habits you're working on?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I am working on cultivating the habit of strength training 3 times a week. It was something I used to love when I was younger. And then I think the voices of like body shame and why we're doing this got in, and it kind of took that love away. And so I am actively putting on my habit tracker to lift weights 3 times a week in the hopes that that love is going to come back for me. Another habit that's on my habit tracker is I have a 5-year prayer journal. It's just a journal that I bought off of a company, Hosanna Revival, and every day you write a little prayer. But then what happens when you finish 1 year is you go back to the beginning and you get to see the prayers stacked on top of each other. And so that's a very small discipline, but it's a new habit for 2025. And so for the last few months, I've just been tracking it. It probably takes me less than 5 minutes to do. But again, our mindset is that if it's not a complete overhaul, then it's not worth it. When in
Ooh.
actuality, it's those little tiny things that are
Mhm.
typically just five minutes to begin.
Mhm. I think you, like, really hit the nail on the head, at least for me. I'm an either all or nothing
All or nothing.
person,
Yep.
and then so I don't even try if it doesn't feel, like, super significant or something.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
so wait a minute. Can I grab something?
Yeah,
Okay, one
absolutely.
second. So this is a fun, I guess, habit you would call it for any person that's stuck in that mindset of like all or nothing, to the point that you do that to yourself so many times that when you fail, it's that much harder to start again because
Mhm.
you are constantly treating yourself like you are a mess that needs to be fixed, like you're a project that needs to be worked on, and you are a human being that is actually transforming all the time.
Mhm.
But so I have this that I started. I'm calling it my evidence journal. And what I do is throughout the day, like at junctures, like at my desk or in the morning or at the end of the day. I'll just write little notes of things throughout the day that I did that made me proud. That felt like
Mm,
that's the person that like
mm,
future me is. And then like I will finish each one with just a line. The person I'm becoming is blank. So like for example, um so say for instance this one that we've struggled with in our household is like we will find that some weeks we are like very planned and we get to the grocery store on Sunday and the week is great. And then other weeks it's like Wednesday and we're like, what the heck happened? What are we
mhm.
eating? And I said, I went to the grocery store this
Mm,
Sunday, a task I rarely want to do, but it made
mm,
me feel so productive and planned. I also bought candles for the house, new stationery, and wrapping paper. The person I'm becoming is
mm.
planned for the week ahead.
Mm. The person I'm becoming is.
Yes, and I think that that's, like, the
Mm,
mindset that I try to cultivate when it comes to habits and disciplines, is that it's, like,
mhm.
it's meant to be fun, it's meant to be joyful, it's meant to be life-giving, and, like, transformation can be a really fun and beautiful thing, and, like, we were designed to transform, to not be stagnant individuals.
Right. I was recently proud of myself because my friends and my daughter who does a lot of cooking were telling me about this certain grocery store that they
Mhm.
have really good food and it tends to be less expensive than the other grocery store in town. And I'm
Okay.
like, "No, I shop at the other grocery store. It's easier for me because I only have to go to one grocery store if I shop at this other one, then I have to make 2 trips and that's too much for me, so I am not gonna change."
Yeah.
But then recently, I was like, "Well, what if I tried? What if I learned something new? What if I learned a layout?" Because that's hard for me. It's hard for me to go in a space where I
Mhm.
don't understand the layout of something and I get confused. And I
Yeah.
have to hand them a quarter to get my cart and I don't know what's happening, you know? And so
Oh,
I
wait, is it Aldi?
it's Aldi. I mean, everybody loves it, right? But I just was like, just feels too much. And I still love the other grocery store,
Yeah, yeah.
but for 4 weeks now, every Sunday I've gone to Aldi and I have saved a lot of money and the food
Yeah.
has been really good and I'm trying a new thing and I thought this isn't painful at all. This actually feels really, really good.
So now what you need to do, all you need to do is find a way to write that down. Put that
Mhm.
somewhere. That is
Mhm.
evidence stacking up. And the reason I call it evidence is because if we were to go into like a courtroom tomorrow, right? Like I would either win or lose the case based on if I had evidence. And a
Okay.
lot of times in our daily lives, especially just like the spiritual elements of life, like the enemy likes to come at us with you're not this, you're not that,
Mm.
you're not put together, you're this, you're that. Well, how do we fight him? Yes, we fight him with the word of God and with truth, but we can
Mm.
also fight him with evidence of like, no, you know what? This is evidence that that's not true. This is evidence that I'm showing up every single day. A lot of times we try to get into that fight with no evidence at all. When your mind is a mess, you're not going to be able to recall that evidence.
That's really good. So you say to the enemy, like, the person I'm becoming is someone who prays every day. The person I'm
Yes.
becoming is someone who feeds my family healthy foods most of the time. The person I'm
Yep.
becoming is conscientious about my budget. You know, the
Yep.
person I'm
Hmm.
becoming shows up in a very present way when I'm connecting with my friends or around the table with my children. I love that.
Yes.
That
It's
doesn't feel so hard.
it's not, and it's really fun, and I'm like, this is a recent practice of mine,
Hmm.
and I'm just looking forward to the day that the journal is full, and, and you can be like, "Wow, like, here's all the evidence of what happened in this season."
It's interesting, Hannah, in talking to you because I know that you're a writer. So
Mhm.
my first thought when you said that, when you bought stationery and you have your journal, I'm like, well, I'm not a writer. I don't, that's what I tend to tell
Yeah.
myself. I am not this. I'm not a person who shops here. I am not a person who does that. But it's like I have a journal. I have one right here by my. It's blank, but
Uh-huh.
I could very easily I could become a person who just writes things down. I don't have to write pages and pages and pages of deep thoughts, but I can track
No, and
stuff.
I'm not, which is so surprising to most people. Like, I
Okay.
will when I write, like, actual words, blogs, emails, and this. Like, I do write it all longhand in notepads like this. But like, I am not a big journal. I haven't been. I've been cultivating that practice just because there's so much evidence and science that like the act
Mm,
of writing pen to paper, whether you're a writer or not, like changes your brain. And I'm like, I think we're all in the space of like, yeah, I could use a little bit of a brain change, you know? And so
right.
that's why I do it rather than typing it or using the notes app. And you can absolutely use those tools. But science says, make no mistake, there's something different that happens in your brain when you write it down physically.
Okay, so I'm fascinated by this because this is my notebook every morning when I um, decide what I'm going to talk about on my radio shows. I
Yeah.
hand write it down. I cannot live without this notebook. And I have a
Yep.
special pen. It's got to be the
Yep.
Sharpie S Gel 1.0. And I have to have the Mead 5-star college lines
Yeah.
notebooks. But I've tried to keep a notes app on my phone. It's not the same. It's not the same as
Okay.
sitting
Yeah.
there and getting it out of my brain. But then I was like, I do it for that, but I never thought about transitioning that to other areas that I want to remember in my life
Mm,
too.
absolutely. Yeah. So you might want to experiment, get curious. You already have a process right there. And so
Hmm.
it might actually not be as big of a leap as you think it would be.
Right. I think that's what I'm hearing. And I think that's what a lot of people are going to connect with, or they do what I do. I'm just not a person who, and then fill in the blank. Well, who do you want to
Mhm.
become? Because I don't want to be so disorganized and I don't want to be always running behind and always late for something. I want to become a person who is on time with some margin, right?
Yes, and that's why it's like in my courses, because I like teach classes on discipline, which to
Okay.
some people is like, wow, how can you even teach a class on discipline? I was like, because we don't, a lot of us don't have the framework. We just like have the motivation to start something, and then we wonder in a few days why it doesn't keep, you know? And that's where discipline has to replace motivation. And so
Mhm.
I always have my students make that list, like make the list of the person that you are becoming. Think about that, clear the space for that, like really question it, and then build habits from that place. Like come up with the habits that you want to cultivate from that place. Because we're living in such an age where, like, you could go on to Instagram, TikTok right now and see the 5 things that worked for that girl that you follow and immediately try to adopt her system. But, like, how do you even know that's what you need? Like, how do you know in this particular season that that's the framework that you should follow? And I think that, like, we're seeing a lot of people do that, but like I would much rather tell you like, hey, clear out some of the noise, get honest with yourself, your circumstances, your season, and then figure out the small disciplines that you want to cultivate from that place. Because what works for her is, it
Mhm.
might work for you, but it also might lead you to a destination that you weren't supposed to get to. Like maybe there's a better destination that comes from sitting in the stillness and really saying, okay, I could do those things and spend hours of my day doing those things. But I think being a more present parent matters more to me. Being a more
Mhm.
patient spouse matters more to me. Being a more prayerful person matters more to me in this season.
When people sign up for your classes, which we will link your information in the show notes of the podcast, what does that look like? Are they live classes? Or how many weeks long are they? Because I'm thinking I got to sign up for this discipline class.
um, I do have a variety of different classes. They used to all be live, and then I switched that mainly because I do think I'll bring back some live classes, but I felt like the live classes were great because you had a lot of like motivation and fire in that moment. But then when you had all
Yeah.
the information the next day, it's like, well, what do I do now? You know, like I had the
Mhm.
live class and now what? And so I switched to go at your own pace courses, but really tried to dig into the framework of like, okay, small modules, checkpoints, community in the comments. I don't do any kind of like this is a 6-week course. I may explore those in the future, But what I really want people to know is that, like, at the end of the day, when it gets hard, I can't be the one to guide you. Like, and so you have to show up for yourself and say, hey, I bought
Mm,
this course. I'm going to
mhm,
finish it in this timeline. And we help you do all of that in the course. But really, this is about a victory for me and showing up for me.
mhm,
And I think that's the core of a lot of what I teach, is that for some reason, especially as women, we'll show up for everybody else. We will burn ourselves out, run ourselves ragged to show up for the people we love, and then the people that are like at our preschool, or I don't
mhm,
know, at the dance studio or whatever. And that's a good and beautiful quality, but like, why can't you show up for yourself then? Because
mhm.
for most of us, that's where the buck stops. And so I really believe in like instilling women with that confidence to say, I'm important too, I matter too, I can take up space too. And a date on the calendar that I set with myself is just as important as a date on the calendar that I set with a friend.
That's really, really good. What are some of the, I call them testimonies,
Mhm.
from people that have taken your courses or that you've interacted with, where you've taught them how to apply this kind of discipline to their lives? What are people saying about the results?
I mean, I think it's just so cool to like, because I get these testimonies all the time for people that take my courses or people that see something on social media. Like just the other day, I did like a series of stories on Instagram about my nightly ritual. I do what's called turn down service because like years ago, I went to a hotel and they would like, you could text for turn down service and they would like make the room like ready for the nighttime. Like they would dim the lights, like perfume, they'd run a bubble bath. It was amazing. It was like turn
Wow.
down service every night.
Wow.
But that's something I've started to cultivate in our home
Mhm,
because I love the ritual. I feel like it's a really good way for me to transition from like work into like evening time, family time. And because I just like love all things like cozy, you know? And so I will set a timer for 60 minutes. It did not start at 60 minutes, but at this point, I do a 60-minute reset. And then I will just go from room to room, resetting, putting a few things
mhm,
away, dimming the lights, putting out blankets, getting the house ready for the evening. And I shared about that. I was shocked by the amount of people that were like, that's revolutionary. I never thought of that. I was like, this is just something I thought we were all doing, you know? And it was so cool to like
mhm,
get people's messages back of like, I did it. I set a timer for 15 minutes and I did my first turn down service and it was amazing. And like, I'm ready. I want to do 20 minutes now. And like, people were just
mhm,
so shocked that like
mhm,
they could commit to
mhm,
this thing that was for themselves or
mhm,
for their family and see the results. And I think that like
mhm,
I think at the heart of it, honestly, like it goes full circle to what we talked about last time. I think it's about living a deeply present life. And if you live a deeply present life, then you are going to be in your life. You're going to be doing things. And we're living in a day and age where it's easier to watch other people do things. And then we kind of forget that we have our own lives to cultivate. That's really all habits and disciplines are. It's building your life, it's cultivating your life. We only get one of these things. We have to pay attention to it.
mhm, mhm. You're
Sorry, I get so
inspiring me to get
passionate about it.
well, I know, because you actually sort of make me believe that it's possible, right? You make me believe
Yeah.
it's possible to cultivate a present, beautiful life. I'm thinking about
And
a
here's the
song that we
thing.
play. Go ahead.
I was just going
Go
to
ahead.
say, like, this is not like, I did not grow up being this way. This was not natural for me. It's still not natural for me. I have to work really
Mhm,
hard at being disciplined. But, like, if you
mhm,
were to go back to, like, me graduating from college, like, I would have never ever believed that I could be this person. Heck, I don't even know if I would have wanted to be this person. Like I had like a single-minded focus on like success, productivity. That's what I wanted, but all these other elements that have made my life so deep and so rich that have nothing to do with productivity really. Like that's
mhm,
the stuff that
mhm,
has filled me with like the joy. That's the stuff that keeps me from burning out. But like I always like to stress like this isn't a natural thing for me. It's not like I was gifted with this at birth. Like I am
mhm,
constantly working on it. Um
mhm.
But because I see the
Mhm.
joy of the evidence stacking up, because I see transformation all throughout the Bible, and like, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, this is what this transformation looks like.
Joy in the evidence. That's real good. It kind of reminds me of a Housefire song that says, I will build my life upon your love. It's a firm foundation. I'll put
Mm.
my trust in you alone. I won't be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It's a firm foundation.
And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken.
So we're building a life on God's
Yeah.
love that we love with the people that we
Yeah.
love and present with the people that we love. So
And
good.
it has to be that foundation of love. I think that that's the most important thing. And that is not just like that God loves you, but extend that love to yourself. And that's where like grace comes in. And that's where it's like, okay, it's okay to get it wrong. Okay, I'm gonna mess it up sometimes. Like, that's fine. That's part of the process. We learn and then we keep moving forward.
But don't let it prevent you from coming back to it. And if you feel inspired
Yeah.
like I feel inspired, don't be like, well, I tried one time and it, lasted 3 days. And so I'm a loser. I am not a
Yeah.
person who
Yeah.
can do discipline. Well, that's no, I'm becoming a person, who has lots of
Yeah.
discipline. I love
Yep.
that. Well, we will link your home page. It's hannahbrenchercreative.com, correct? And I know from
Yes.
there you
Mhm.
can link to taking some of those awesome discipline courses, which we're so excited to sign up for.
Yes. Yes. Habit trackers are there, unplugged hours trackers. And it's something that I'm consistently writing about on the blog, but trying to shift the perspective from like, this is just like a mark it off the tracker and get it done, to like, no, these are the bones of an intentional life.
Tell me real quick as we wrap up. I know my producer, Abby, she's the one who introduced me to your work and
Yeah.
your Instagram. And she gets an email from you every Monday that
Yes.
she really loves. How can we sign up for that and what's involved in the Monday email?
Yeah, that's the Monday Club. It's like right on the front homepage of the website. Gosh, I started it, I think like 13 years ago, which is crazy to think about, 12 or 13 years ago. I just really thought Mondays are really hard. And I would like to just show up in somebody's inbox and remind them that they have what it takes to get through this week. And so that's what it's been. And sometimes, it's essays, sometimes it's how to, sometimes it's, just like stories. But yeah, it's that reminder of like, hey, we're going to go out and we're going to build intentional lives this week. And here's where it starts.
Hey, thanks for living on mission, Hannah, helping us all live more intentionally and more fully and more present. And I can't wait when we connect again because we would like to invite you back. I'm
Yeah.
gonna let you know about some of those disciplines. I'm gonna show you the evidence.
Yes. Show me. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of This Lyric, That Truth. If you were inspired by today's conversation, feel free to share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. If you're looking for more hope and encouragement in your music, download the Joy Media mobile app for free wherever you download your apps. I'm Ceci, and I so look forward to sharing more in-depth conversations with you as we talk about the lyrics that encourage us and shape our lives. Meet me back here next week for another episode of This Lyric, That Truth.